The driver of the small vehicle was also unharmed. Ekurhuleni Disaster and Emergency Services spokesperson William Ntladi.
The call was received 7:31 this morning, and rescue teams activated from Wadeville and Vosloorus fire station respectively. On arrival, no entrapments were found in both vehicles. The 3 injured scholars were medically treated on scene before being transported by a private ambulance to a nearby medical facility.
Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Mabotja says her department will provide the Knysna municipality with 20 million rand in emergency relief funding to help stabilize its water supply system, which is presently facing critical water challenges. The Akkerkloof Dam, the municipality's primary water storage facility, is currently sitting at just 16% capacity, translating to an estimated 13 days of usable water at present consumption levels. The minister says the funding will be reprioritized from existing water services and infrastructure grants. Ntutuzela Nene has more.
Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Mabotja says the funding, together with technical support, will be used to develop groundwater resources, easing pressure on strained surface water sources in the Knysna water supply system. The department is also deploying technical engineering expertise to assess the Knysna desalination plant with the aim of confirming refurbishment requirements to increase water production. In addition, the department will assist the municipality to strengthen its water resources planning, ensuring improved long-term water security. Mabotja says they are also providing funding for feasibility studies into the development of a new small local dam. Ntutuzela Nene, Eyewitness News.
The family of missing Ekurhuleni official Andile Mgwevu are preparing for the worst as the search for the member of the Ekurhuleni Mayoral Committee enters a 4th day. Mgwevu was reported missing on Sunday after the vehicle he was travelling in was swept away by fast-moving floodwaters in the Chokwe region in southern Mozambique on Saturday. He was part of an official delegation visiting the region when severe flooding occurred. Oren Singh has more.
In a statement, the family of Ekurhuleni MMC for Roads and Transport Planning, Andile Mgwevu, claim they are being kept abreast of search and rescue efforts in Mozambique by the South African government. The family say they've been informed that a South African rescue mission deployed to Mozambique has established contact with one of 5 individuals who were travelling in the vehicle with Mgwevu at the time of the incident. The South African National Defence Force have deployed teams to collaborate with disaster management agencies in Mozambique as part of Operation Chariot. Meanwhile, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi will this afternoon visit Mgwevu's family in Springs to offer his support. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
Former Independent Police Investigative Directorate Head Robert McBride's testimony before the Parliament Ad Hoc Committee got off to a bad start today, where he clashed with MPs over his employment and attitude. McBride had refused to disclose his employment, which he says is prohibited by intelligence legislation. MPs also slammed McBride for making funny gestures during the opening remarks by some committee members and submitting an outdated CV. Babalo Ndenza reports.
Robert McBride will be in the hot seat for the next 2 days, where he is expected to answer allegations of his role in interfering in police operations. But before MPs could interrogate him, McBride refused to disclose his employment, which is in the country's intelligence structures.
I'm not allowed to say what my employment is.
Members urged him to confirm his employment, with EFF MP Leanne Matthys also complaining about his attitude.
It tells us, Chair, that Mr. McBride is not taking this committee serious. It's like he's just indifferent. He's just here. Oh, you called me here. It's giving us the same Mary Diaz vibes.
McBride will continue giving evidence and is also expected to respond to allegations that he colluded with forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan to target certain senior officials. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the United Nations Human Rights Council is expected to hold an emergency meeting in Iran this Friday to discuss the alarming violence used against protesters. According to reports, human rights monitors have reported mass arrests in the country, with estimates exceeding 18,000 detainees as of mid-January this year. The session is being held following a request from Britain, Germany, Iceland, Moldova and North Macedonia. Gold's trading at $4,727.24 an ounce. The rand's at 16.44 to the dollar, at 22.16 to the pound, at 19.29 to the euro. Brent crude oil at $64.08 a barrel.
Well, at this hour, heading in and out of the Joburg CBD, approaching Selby, expect about a 30-minute delay on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road in Amalgam. There's also slow-moving traffic on Main Reef Road between Production and Anderson, and look out for those faulty traffic lights in Douglasdale at Leslie and Douglas Drive.
A look at your weather. It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 23 and 25 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour: a 22-year-old Scholar Transport driver involved in the fatal Vanderbijl Park Scholar Transport crash is expected to appear at the Vanderbijl Park Magistrates Court within the next 48 hours.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Nine minutes after 1 o'clock. Welcome to 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, on this Tuesday, the 20th of January. Some people are getting paid today, yo! Some people are like, finally, that whole year of January being broke is over. Coming up in the show, I want to find out from all of you around the concept of uniforms and uniformity and any rules around appearance, particularly in schools, if they actually have a meaningful input on discipline. And maybe you can look at it from your own personal experience, but I really want us to think about the fact that, do appearance and uniform rules actually contribute to discipline? And what do they contribute to? And are you for or against them? And maybe in that same conversation, what does that mean for creativity and individuality? In our tech feature, we're going to talk about AI prompting 101 and how to get AI to work with you and not replace you. We'll be joined by Tiffany Markman, who's a copywriter and global speaker, for that conversation. The second hour of the show, we continue with our series edition that we've been journeying through with Nikki Bush. This is our second episode on the neuroscience of change, and we're going to be talking about psychological, emotional, and physical integrity, the radical wholeness in 2026. And that conversation will happen. Always have your notebooks ready because she'll be dropping some gems and bars. And then our car feature, why basic car maintenance is often overlooked and the long-term costs of ignoring these safety risks. Eugene Shutter, who is works at Steve Auto Clinic in Alberton as a services advisor, will join us for that conversation. So get in touch, 011 883 0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 Afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Let us have a conversation around rules to do with appearance and school uniforms and uniformity when it comes to school learners. and if we believe it contributes to discipline. So I have to be honest, I have been of the view that uniform keeps things fair. It keeps a level playing field, if we're to put it like that, in terms of kids being treated, in inverted commas, the same, with nobody having to deal with the issues of, well, this person is wearing designer brands, this one has holes in their clothes because they come from this kind of family. So it kind of evens the playing field. But if you noticed recently, there was a video when schools opened with a school that came out, and we saw the video circulating, where young ladies specifically, and when it comes to long hair, were having their braids cut, and the boys were being forced to comb their dreadlocks out. And I saw so many of the comments with people saying, yes, rules are rules. Rules must be followed. If you know that the braids have to be shoulder length and not have color, why as a parent are you allowing that? Yes, cut off the hair. Force them to shave or force them to do this thing. But I might be starting to rethink my position in this regard. And I come from the background where I was in a private school and they were strict. Like, we knew exactly how many times your socks had to be folded. Okay? We knew the length of your dress. It had to be hemmed 4 fingers above your knee. The hairbands had to be exactly the school colors, and there were rules. There were rules governing our hair and what we do with our hair. But I stumbled upon an interesting TikTok from @Francina, who is a South African, and she posted this video saying that this is actually problematic, cutting the students' hair in order for them to enter the school premises. And I want you to take a listen to what she has to say, and then I want to hear your thoughts.
The only thing more problematic than cutting off a student's braids in order to enter school is the comment section on those videos. There was one comment that basically said, suck it up, this is school discipline. This is school, it's not a fashion show. But this isn't school discipline. That's not what school discipline should be used for. Because I think we need to ask ourselves very important questions. Like, why do we define the idea of the disciplined subject and the good disciplined student as somebody who is denied their creative self-expression? Why does that equal a good student? If you want to go into academia, there have been large-scale studies conducted many times over that consistently come to the same point, that your school uniform policy, what kids wear, does not have an impact on their behavior, and it does not have an impact on their ability to learn. And you cannot argue that school uniform policy is about good discipline, because school uniform policy was never instituted as a pedagogical decision. It was never a group of educators who came together and were like, how could we improve the behavior of young people? No, it was instituted because of Napoleon, okay, a French dude in 1802 who absolutely hated adolescents. And so he wanted to bring out the man in them. So he demanded that secondary schools militarize their schools so that kids would now become men and they would reflect the values of the state. And I'm not trying to say that school uniform can't be a good thing, but you can't argue that school uniform is a conduit to good discipline. If anything, school uniform is about population control. It is a way for Teachers to look upon a sea of students who are all dressed the same and to be able to make very snap and quick decisions about which students stand out because they are or aren't following the school rules. When you teach discipline, you're aiming to teach young people something about themselves, something about their way of interacting with the world. And when we think about South Africa, we're operating within a democracy. And because students go to school up until 18, and at 18 you can drink and you can drive and you can now vote, school becomes, and discipline becomes, this kind of shadow curriculum where we teach young people about how to be a citizen in society. And obedience is cool. We want to create young students who do follow the rules. We want people to follow the rule of the land. But we also want people to think about what it is that they're following. We don't want blind following. That's how, terrible atrocities like World War II could happen. I understand school uniform can be something that's quite unifying, particularly when you have students from a variety of socioeconomic spectrums. It's a way to kind of equalize the playing field for everyone who's there. But when school rules become so prescriptive, for example, in schools, I could have this round gold stud, but if it was a star, it would be confiscated. When they become so prescriptive like that, it stops losing its meaning. It stops being about buying into the school ideology and trying to be neat, and more about enacting authority for authority's sake. Schools begin to look more like authoritarian regimes than democratic ones. And if schools are these spaces for young people to learn about citizenship, then why is it that we're inducting them in these authoritarian ways and hoping to just pop out a democratic citizen at the end? Because when we're cutting off a young person's braids and then calling it school discipline, what we're really telling them is that individuality is bad, and individuality means bad behaving, slutty little student. And it's not okay. We should be giving young people the opportunity to critically engage with the rules and the meaning making of the rules that surround them. Because we're not living in 1802, nor are we living in an authoritarian dictatorship. We're in a democracy where we respect the creative self-expression of our citizens. When authority punishes so prescriptively, it loses respect for itself. And you will never create a good, disciplined environment or good, disciplined students if your authority is so utterly unrespectable.
So what are your thoughts on what has been shared by Francina? Because I think she raised some interestingly valid points. 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
The DA elective conference, do you still think you've got it in you to still hold any leadership position?
I would have, but I don't want one.
You don't want one?
No, I've done what I've had to do.
Yeah.
And I feel that my job is now to try and help fix local government, because South Africa can't succeed unless our metros are functional.
So if you don't succeed in Johannesburg, is that you bowing out, or you'll join the city council in the opposition benches?
Well, it depends. I mean, obviously we're in it to win it. We don't go in to lose.
Like any other party.
Yeah, and we'll put our massive effort in to win it. If that doesn't work, if the voters of Johannesburg decide they want more of the same that they've currently got, well, then the voters get the government they voted for, which is very sad.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Water is a scarce resource. That dripping tap, that overwatered lawn, it all adds up. Johannesburg Water urges you to fix on-property leaks, reuse grey water, and reduce unnecessary use. They're intensifying leak repairs and upgrading infrastructure to reduce losses. By working together and changing daily habits, water resources can be safeguarded and supply secured for future generations. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
Year in, year out, we're fixing tires faster than a Formula One pit crew. My team is on top of things like tire whisperers. If an unforeseen accident were to happen in my workshop, at least I've got My Way business insurance to keep the wheels turning.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Are you one of our loyal listeners? Did you tune in over the holidays while we were recharging? What did you think of the content and the lineup? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. Simply send us your feedback to contact at 702.co.za, or better still, you can do it in person. Come visit us this Friday, the 23rd. We'll be hosting another 702 visit at lunchtime. We'll take you on a tour of our lovely building and show you our studios. To book your seat, simply send us an email to contact@702.co.za. We would love to meet you and connect with you too.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja.
21 minutes after 1 o'clock, and we are asking the question if school uniform policies and regulations on appearance actually instill and teach discipline in learners. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 on 702. Stephen, go Cosmo City. How's it, Stephen?
Good, and how are you?
Good, good. Go ahead.
I definitely feel yes. They definitely do install discipline. Kids, especially teenagers, learn how to basically look clean, look decent, and they also basically put some sort of respect. That's what I feel.
So help me understand, how do those rules teach those things? Because in my mind, before a child goes to school, discipline is taught at home. So by the time a child is like 4 or 5, they should already have an idea how to dress themselves. How is the uniform teaching that?
No, I agree with that. You understand that if they tell you that you must come dressed this way, this is how we do things, and this is how. So already, as a child, you follow those rules. Already the basic rules that, okay, I need to be clean, I need to dress this way, my hair needs to be in this color, my shoes must be shiny. It's some sort, even if there's no respect in Kolona, at least Koskolong, those basic few rules, at least you follow those ones. That's how I feel.
So did you get a chance to listen to what the lady was saying in the audio?
No, I didn't. That's maybe the problem.
Ash, no stress. And thank you for your contribution. What I'll do is I'll make sure I'll post it. The clip is a bit long, so I can't play it again. But in summary, for those that didn't hear, she basically was talking about how, a child going into school and not being allowed on the premises before their hair gets cut to follow the rules as was seen. It teaches obedience. It limits artistic freedom and does nothing for the kids regarding actual discipline in the school premises. She argued that hair and uniform related policies in schools don't enforce discipline and are rather about authoritarianism and control. And she goes on to say multiple researchers have revealed that what kids wear to school has no impact on their behavior and no impact on their ability to learn. And school uniforms were first designed to militarize students and learners to reflect the values of the state by Napoleon. Now, Nkakehong, what are your thoughts?
Hi, how are you? And
Good, thanks, and you?
Good, thanks. I hear what you're saying. It currently actually meaning that it's an authoritarian dysfunctionality here.
Yes.
That's what she's actually meaning. But unfortunately, the people that are getting punished are the children, only because their parents didn't listen to the rules, because they got the rules earlier. And in this case, it means that the information did not filter enough to go to the children. It's more like a Chinese whisperer. At the end of the line, you don't get the same message that you transferred. So, according to me, and the way I understand it, and in my daily functional behavior working in a medical facility, everything is not militarized. Yes, some of those things are militarized because there are ranks. You have to bow down to what your head says. Even at your work, without you having any military, your manager is the one you have to listen to. That means there is a hierarchy. So the children have jumped the hierarchy in their own households. Their households are dysfunctional, and they come to school looking like clowns. And then who is going to be punished then? The children are going to be punished. It's not only about authoritarian rule, or maybe they have to express themselves democratically, or they have to take out their craftsmanship and their artistic abilities and show them to the world. It's about a parent guiding a child to say, yes, I understand you're artistic, but this is not the time. You are playing up until 9 o'clock. At 9:05, I want you to be sleeping.
So can I ask you something now? Something that just crossed my mind now, ne, as Untsobua. I'm realizing, Hore, a lot of our childlike creativity, the one that is uninhibited, gets killed very early in our lives. Ne?
Yes.
If you think about it, because the moment you become an adult now, you are going into a new system that enforces rules. So if hypothetically we were to say children should also be allowed to value creativity because in itself it's its own form of education. It is a critical part of their own development. Would what we are saying with these rules not mean that we are cutting them off before they even get to explore what that looks like, all under the guise of, but these are the rules? Keeping in mind, we come from a country where, but these are the rules, and we changed them because we knew better and different.
I hear what you're saying, but if you must really understand, the child is staying at school for about 8 hours, and you are working at 4 o'clock, you knock off 5, 6, 7, 8, you cooking and doing anything, you don't have much of the things. There are extramural activities, those are catered for, and during the weekends. So what are you supposed to do? You're trying to tell me that you as a parent are failing your child to be creative because there are certain things. So in this case, they're trying to teach the child critical things like critical thinking. A plus A is equals to 2A, not A plus A equals to
No, I'm not saying, hear me out. I'm not saying you're failing your child at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if you as a parent, and this is obviously a personal preference, because anybody listening can say, then don't choose a school where they have those rules. You know, choose a school where children can wear everything. All I'm trying to challenge is to say, are we trying to raise children who are obedient and follow rules because that's what the rule is? It doesn't matter about individuality. It doesn't matter that rules are rules. They should never be challenged. Or are we trying to raise a different generation of children? Because if we really think about it, now that I think about it, I'm still yet to be convinced that how does uniform contribute to the child's ability to learn outside of, because not wearing uniform doesn't mean you're dirty or untidy.
No, unfortunately, yes, it doesn't mean that. But you must understand that our system, actually, even the uniform, how it was set out. Uniform was set out to rule out the inequalities.
No, that's not why. No, that's not why it was set out. It was set out because even if you look at some of the traditionally boys' schools about why boys would get shaved, is because they were preparing them to go to the military. It was for conscription. That's why. It was not for inequality. Don't think the apartheid government cared about inequality.
No. not only for military. It was. There are many reasons why uniform is there. It's not only for conscription. There are many reasons. Some of them, yes, maybe about 80% or 50%, yes, it is. But I was trying to tell you about creativity of the children that you have as a parent to look at abilities. And I challenge you to go and watch a movie called Courageous, so that you can know what a parent has to do, the availability of another parent. So now I'm going to blame it back to the parents who are not even responsible about their children, including the fathers. We always complain about the fathers. We complain about the parents. But if you look at a movie where it says it's courageous, it actually tells you and hits back at us, especially me as a parent, as a father parent. You understand? So those are the things that I have to go and look into and say, okay, I have a child. He spends 8 hours in a class.
So let's do this now. I'm going to encourage you to listen to the rest of the show because we do have to go to the news right now. I see all of your voice notes and messages coming through. And I am saying, I was a person who was like, yes to uniform, it's fair, it's this. But after hearing what Francina had to say, I really have to question, why is it that we're doing it? And then what is the purpose of school? What is the purpose of school? And are all these rules that govern appearance actually helping us achieve what the purpose of school is? It's just after 1:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. Over 600 people from the Sporong informal settlement have taken refuge at a community hall after being driven from their homes by Zamazamas. The settlement, located in the Randwest municipality, was established near a number of decommissioned mines. After years of being terrorized by the Zamazamas, the community has left the area. Parliament's presiding officers say they will instruct their respective committees on cooperative governance to come up with a plan to exercise oversight of flood-ravaged areas in the country. This is in response to a call from National Council of Provinces MP Malesela Mokoena for the establishment of a joint ad hoc committee to oversee government's response to the state of disaster. And Spain has begun its 3 days of mourning after 41 people were killed after two trains collided. Over 120 people were injured, with 39 people still in hospital, including 4 children. The disaster took place on Sunday when one train crossed onto the other track and crashed into the oncoming train, which also derailed. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 2 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, traveling in and out of the Joburg CBD, you can expect about a 30-minute delay. This is in Selby on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road in Amalgam coming from Rivoli. Bumper-to-bumper traffic on Main Reef Road between Production and Anderson. Melrose traffic is sluggish. This is also heading towards Parktown on the M1 southbound between Grayston and Ethel Oakland. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Mzansi Powerball has skyrocketed to an epic 177 million rand in estimated jackpot this Tuesday, the second highest ever recorded jackpot in Ituba's history. Play now and you could win big, just like Friday's Powerball Plus winner, who bagged over 33 million rand via the National Lottery platform. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusher, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery. As world leaders and investors gather in Davos this week to set the global economic agenda, Gauteng is stepping forward as Africa's economic gateway. Catch 702 in conversation with the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency on 702 Drive with John Pullman this afternoon, unpacking Gauteng's presence at this year's World Economic Forum. From global investors to long-term partnerships, discover how South Africa's economic engine is positioning itself for future growth. Only on 702.
Your voice.
Your life.
Your afternoon radio.
On 702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabotja.
26 minutes to 2 o'clock, and we continue with our conversation, chatting about appearance rules, uniform policies and regulations in schools. Do they actually teach discipline, or what do they teach? After we played a clip by Francina on TikTok, who was saying that uniforms were not actually designed for discipline. They were designed to militarize students and learners to reflect the values of the state by Napoleon, that some of these policies are out of control, and they also leave out the concept of individuality and creativity, and of course saying that it just teaches obedience in a kind of authoritarian way, based off of the video circulating when the ladies' hair was being cut, and the girls' hair was being cut, and some of the guys had to, comb out their dreads to follow the rules. What are your thoughts? 011 883 0702. The WhatsApp line 072702 and 702. We've got your voice notes.
Afternoon, 702. This is Kamo here from Johannesburg. I've attended private and multiracial schools, which you call Model C schools. There's this whole concept of school uniform instills discipline. No, it doesn't. Discipline starts at home. If there's no discipline at home, it doesn't matter whether you're forcing a child to wear school uniform. The discipline is the first thing, and it must start at home. Since when does school uniform become now discipline? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense. School uniform, discipline. What does school uniform have to do with discipline? Discipline starts at home. Rules, teaching your kids values. But you know what most parents do? They just want to dump their kids at school. And the teachers must become their parents, their psychologists. They must become police officers. And it's totally wrong. Take responsibility for your children.
Hi, Relebogile. I think school uniform instills a sense of Ubuntu. It teaches our children to like one another for who they are, for their personalities. I think things would be vastly different if they came in their own clothes, because the reality is that in this country, you know, people come from all sorts of socio-economic backgrounds, and we don't want a situation where some kids are alienated or they feel out of place simply because they can't afford what the next child can.
Hi, how are you, Relebogile? According to me, I think school uniform, it is very, very important, more than how from that message I had, more than that message says. You know, school uniform, you know, the wearing can influence a person to think that is any kind of way that can even commit some of the things which he will not or she could not do if she was not wearing like that. You know, school uniform is very important because it put the learner's mind to the level that she will always or he will always know that is a learner, cannot forget him or herself, other than wearing something else where he will be perceiving that he's a rapper somewhere in America or he's somebody else somewhere. He can even commit something which is he suits it. Thank you. It's Clippy Sekopa.
Thank you so much. And I think that last voice note is illustrating that part about perception, right? When he said he thinks he's a rapper somewhere in America. So the arts are looked down upon. Let's start there. As a country, creativity and the arts are not respected nearly as much as they should be. And I'm still not sold because I'm trying to understand. And mind you, putting clothes on and getting ready for school would require routine, right? And also in a country like ours where so many people are struggling, the concept of uniforms is a challenge for many parents. And it's not like you buy uniforms once. You have to buy every year as they continue to grow. And then there's the winter side. So there's the economic factor. So I'm not in any way saying that uniforms must be scrapped. Hear me out. I'm just saying, what is it actually helping with in relation to discipline and all of those things? Hear more of your voice notes.
Hey Lebza, Keith here from Springs. When I was in school, I matriculated the year 2004, and the guys weren't allowed hair styling gel on their hair. And obviously the girls needed to plait their hair or put in a ponytail or whatever the case is. I have no idea what that actually taught us. I now use hair gel now, and I put hair wax on my 7-year-old for him to go to school. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Keith here.
Good afternoon, Radio 702. Good afternoon, Relebogile Mabotja listeners. Great show as always. The issue of uniform, listening to the content of the voice of your guest. To be honest, schooling is not a contest. It's not where we show off the capacity of our affordability, the level of our lifestyle at home, but it's where we learn. So kids must wear uniform, and that uniform must be based on school rules. So this avoid kids not to be under pressure and face peer pressure. Some of them start to do funny things because they want to fit in. So yeah, I agree with what your voice guest has mentioned in her content. Jimmy from First Letters, thank you.
Relebogile, I think the concept of a school needs to be rethought about. I think that how we think about schools still producing factory workers for the industrial revolution age is a long gone theory, and I think we need to redefine what the goal of schools is, and what kind of people and what kind of economy they are actually producing, I suppose, students for. I think in our world, schools and the economies that they are supposed to produce students for are, I suppose, figments of the past.
I do agree that uniforms in schools do protect the poorer children who can never keep up with the ones who've got so much money. So the sponsored children, maybe. I do believe that they're all equal in school, and that's the way it should be.
Guys, so many things coming to my mind. Are all kids equal? And I ask that not in terms of some are more important than others or as a class thing, but we're not equal in the sense that when a teacher is teaching a class, some kids need more attention than others. In the same way that as a parent, you don't raise all your children the same. So, should all kids actually be equal at school? Yesterday, we had the 9 distinction student sitting with us in studio. Should that person get equal attention as the child who is barely passing on just the 6 subjects? Or if the rule is going to be we should all be equal, but that's not even real life. Right here in this building in Prime Media, we're not all equal because we all live different lives. We are different. We're not all the same. And I get it, but I'm really starting to question some of the things. And that previous voice notes said, like, people were being prepared for a different time where you're going to be in a uniform, being a factory worker, following the rules, following the laws, and working in a certain type of environment. That's not the life we live right now. People work from home. People do different careers. Like, here I am on radio. Is that schooling system really accommodating of every single type of child that exists? Because now we need to see them all in uniform with hair up to their shoulders. And if it's a ponytail, it must be right at the back. This is the question I'm asking. Here are more of your voice notes.
Personally, I think that if parents don't want their kids to conform to a certain societal rule or societal standards that that particular school might prescribe to, or might want you to prescribe to as a child, or as a parent for that matter, then you should simply take the option of homeschooling your kids. Might work out better.
Hi, really. Tobela here. I went to ChatGPT to ask why the uniforms were introduced. It says to promote equality, discipline, safety, and school identity, while minimizing social divisions and distraction. I think I agree with this one. I'm not sure where that lady got that information, but I'm not saying I'm against it, but I think I agree with ChatGPT. Thank you.
I'm so glad that in our tech feature, we're going to be talking about how to use ChatGPT. So even if you put in a prompt for ChatGPT, you cannot take that as Bible. this person that was speaking is speaking on research they have read.
Hi, Relebogile and the team. Look, here's my thoughts. That uniform, one, it helps with maintaining some level of same standard for the children which are in the school, because a dress is a dress, a tunic is a tunic, and we all get it at the same store, right? So in teenage lives and in the lives of children, it already takes away that level of comparison and not wanting to go to school because you don't have Jordans or you don't have Louis Vuittons. I think the basis of the uniform, as in the dress or pants and shirt and the school socks, etc., I think I'm all for that. What I find difficult to understand is
I think a school uniform is a must. First of all, it teaches children of unity, give them a sense of belonging, and it's a basis of discipline in school. Because if you can follow that simple rule, it's also cheaper. Because a child has 2 sets of clothes to wear during the week. It's a parent's responsibility or the child's responsibility to see that it stays clean. And children that come to school with whatever they wear, it's basically can turn into competition, because I wear brand name clothes and you cannot afford it, and so forth. Keep it simple, keep it plain. We all want, when we're at school, when we're out, and our parents want to be diverse, that's fine.
Sylvia in Northcliffe, you've got your thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, I actually concur with a lot of your listeners, particularly the last two. I was going to say exactly what they're saying. It's the cost of the uniforms that should be addressed. Because I think that wearing a uniform does instill some pride in a child. There is no competitiveness as far as what to wear this morning and what to wear tomorrow morning, and I'm better than you are. So I think that when you said we're not all equal, you are right. But this is not about being equal on that level. It's about being equal in the way you dress. So there is no competitiveness. And it's just a personal opinion. I think a child who's dressed in a uniform is proud of her school, proud of what she's wearing, and casual clothes can actually look quite slovenly during school time. That's just my personal opinion.
Thank you so much. Yes,
the uniform cost that must be addressed.
Thank you so much, Sylvia in Northcliffe, for that and all of the messages we didn't get to and your voice note. Super appreciated. I'm going to close it on Anonymous's messages saying, I worked at a government school as an HOD. There's an unhealthy obsession with uniforms. They once considered a disciplinary and revoking colors for a learner who wore cargo pants instead of jeans while he was on duty as a photographer at a Saturday extracurricular event. Also, no skinny pants with a 20 centimeter width at the bottom, 18 centimeters, and you'll get a demerit. It really is exhausting and an obsession for some principals and management teams. Thank you so much.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9. Grief for the families who lost their children in this horrific Scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park. Families all around South Africa don't have a choice in who transports their kids to and from school. They just have to pay and hope that their kids get to school safely. There's a bigger question here to be asked. Are we a country that no longer abides by the law? Is that who we are?
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Are you ready to let go of your ride in the new year? We Buy Cars makes it easy and even enjoyable to part ways with your vehicle. Simply complete their form on webuycars.co.za and they'll handle the rest. Looking to upgrade your car? With over 12,000 vehicles for sale, you're certainly spoiled for choice. Visit webuycars.co.za today.
It's the new year.
And Peter is still looking for a university.
Why is this so hard?
And now that he's running out of time, he's not looking at the right things.
Wait, I'm not?
You see, where most universities sell you on what you'll do at university, Emrys focuses on what you'll be able to do when you leave university.
Well, that changes everything.
With a high-performance tertiary education from Emrys, you'll be able to make a mark in the working world from day one.
And I can still register?
Yes. Register today at emrys.ac.za. Emrys is an educational brand of the Independent Institute of Education.
702
Tech Feature.
9 minutes to 2 o'clock in our tech feature for today. We are chatting all about AI prompting 101 and how to get AI to work with you and not replace you. 011 883 702, the WhatsApp line. 072 702 1702. We're joined by Tiffany Markman, who's a communication consultant, a writer, and a speaker. Tiffany, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Tiffany, let's kick off with just the basic understanding, because we can't assume everybody is already onto AI, of what AI is.
So AI, the way we speak about it in mainstream terms, is usually what's called generative AI. In other words, it's when humans put a prompt or a little line of text or multiple lines of text into a large language model, which is the fancy name for an AI platform, and then expect to get some kind of output as a result, either text or an image or a piece of code. So the kind of AI that we are speaking about in the mainstream that most normal humans, not tech people, would use is generative AI.
Okay, so in terms of prompting 101, what does that look like? Because I think many of us, when we started with AI, was treating it like a Google search.
Yeah. So I think that's why a lot of the people who aren't using AI regularly tried it out in the beginning and maybe tried it out without using it optimally, and so it didn't give them what they wanted, and so perhaps they're not using it often now. Those of us who are still completely obsessed with it are trying to get better and better and better at our input. So prompt is just a fancy name for the text input that we as humans put into the platform. It's really just a pattern recognition platform. So basically what happens is we put input into that platform, and as a result of our input, the AI platform predicts the most likely and logical text to use to respond to us. So on that basis, you can see that the quality of your prompt directly affects the quality of what you get. So if you pop in the kind of phrasing and language you would use in a standard Google search, you're not really using the platform in the optimal way.
Okay, so what are some of the tips that you can share for somebody getting started with AI? And of course, ChatGPT is not the only one. There are many others, your Claudes and the others that people can find on their phones and laptops. Where does one get started?
So there are many different ones, ChatGPT being the most common. There's Claude, Gemini, Copilot, loads of others, hundreds and hundreds of others. But the rules for prompting them are much the same across all of them. So the most important thing is you've got to tell it more than you would think it needs to know. In other words, you've got to spoon feed it. You've got to give it information on who the audience is for the outcome that you're sending. So let's use an email as an example because it's a common one. If I want an AI platform to help me to write an email, I need to tell the platform who I'm sending the email to, what the email is about, what is the context for sending it, so what might have happened before, what are the constraints inherent in the email. In other words, is there a word length or word count? What don't I want it to say? What do I want it to say? What are the tonal things that will make it better or worse? So maybe I don't want it to sound aggressive. I don't want it to sound too forthright. Maybe I want it to be gentle. Maybe I want it to be more sensitive. And then what is the outcome that I desire? What am I hoping the reader will do once they've read the email? So people don't realize you have to give that level of detail to the platform in order to get the desired outcome.
So let's use a CV, for example, that you want the chat platform to update your CV, and maybe one of the criteria is they only want 1 pages. What kind of prompt would you give it?
So the first thing I would do is I would say, I want you to help me create a CV. using this information. So I would upload a PDF or Word document of my existing CV. I would say that here is the job spec that I've been given by the recruiter or by the recruitment platform. So I'm sending the CV in response to this particular job spec, and I would give the platform that. Then I would say I want it to be only one page, so you're going to have to use tables or some kind of an infographic style in order to fit everything in. I would say that it's perhaps for a South African recruitment company that's looking to place me in a financial services position, just so that the language and vocab is right. And then I would say, you know, my personal speaking and writing style might be described as whatever, and then insert like professional, clear, confident, honest, transparent, just to give it a sense of you as a human so that it doesn't sound too generic.
How do you start to get or to start incorporating the AI into your life? Where are some of the places people can use it, maybe that they're not thinking about? For example, we have a 16-hour layover in Qatar. What can we do here?
So for that kind of thing, it's extremely useful, but you'd have to be much more specific than that. You'd have to say, we're a family of 4, our 2 kids are under the age of 3, we really enjoy museums and eating out, but we absolutely hate long queues and walking outdoors in the rain. We have 18 hours, of which, you know, we'd have to spend 3 hours getting back to the airport. What do you suggest we do in Qatar? So it's not just a what should we do in Qatar, because then you're going to get generic stuff, most of which isn't helpful. Tell it exactly what your family likes and doesn't like. It's not like it's a human that's going to be offended if you keep adding specifics. You can go on for hours. So the rule is spoon feed it. Give it much more information than you think it needs, and it will give you much better information than you thought you could get from it.
So already you can say one doesn't like swimming and one is allergic to ice cream, and you start to whittle it down, and then it starts to give you more and more information. What are your final thoughts just on how to really better use AI?
So the best tip that I have is, don't think that the platform is some kind of genius. It's not. What you put in affects what you're going to get out. So take the time to craft a prompt that will really serve your specific needs in the moment. Don't put all the heavy lifting onto the platform. Do a little bit of the thinking yourself first. Then it will give you AI-generated output, and then apply your human brain to that again, to refine it, to fine-tune it, to make it sound like you, to make it relevant. It's not a one-step process. It's at minimum a 3 to 4 step process. So it'll be really good for you if you take the time to use it properly. If you don't, it's never going to deliver much more than boring mediocrity.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for your time today on our Tech Feature.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
At least 11 learners have died following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Johannesburg this morning. Preliminary information indicates the minibus taxi the learners were traveling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The area has now been cordoned off as investigators work to piece together what exactly happened. Mongezi Koko reports.
In addition to the 11 fatalities, 5 other learners were seriously injured and have been rushed to nearby medical facilities. The learners are believed to have been on their way to school when the crash occurred, turning a routine morning commute into a scene of tragedy and grief.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Mzansi Powerball has skyrocketed to an epic 177 million rand in estimated jackpot this Tuesday, the second highest ever recorded jackpot in Ituba's history. Play now and you could win big, just like Friday's Powerball Plus winner, who bagged over 33 million rand via the National Lottery platform. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Greenland, Trump, all of that. I never thought I'd use the phrase that Greenland is pushing precious metals stronger, but this is where we are right now.
It's all part of this broader theme of fracturing into blocks, into spheres of influence, and it is going to have an impact on the long-term integrity of the dollar. Imperialism is not cheap, if that's where we're going back. It's got fiscal implications.
Meryl Peck, Portfolio Manager.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. That's how we're invested in your story. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum. Financial advisors help you have a better shot at generational wealth. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Malapo. We begin with News Just In. 2 people have been killed and 3 others injured in a shooting outside the Boysons Magistrates Court this afternoon. One of the victims who survived is a well-known attorney. It's believed he represented a notorious gangster who had met at the court for a consultation. Police are currently on the scene. We'll have more on this story in our later bulletins. Over 600 people from the Sporong informal settlement have taken refuge at a community hall after allegedly being driven from their homes by Zamazamas. The settlement, located in the Rand West municipality, was established near a number of decommissioned mines. After years of being terrorized by the Zamazamas, the community has left the area. Thabiso Goba has more.
The images of women and children crammed in a community hall usually follow a natural disaster. However, the community of Sporong is dealing with a different kind of disaster, a man-made one of illegal miners, also known as Amazamazama. Community leader Elsie Mokobane says it's been more than 2 weeks since they abandoned their homes.
Life here at the hall is also difficult. We are definitely safer than where we are coming from, but not living well. We don't have hot water, we sleep on the floor, and there are not enough sponges or space for everyone. Some people sleep in the kitchen, shower and passages.
Mogobane says while they are grateful for the safe shelter, they are appealing to government for a more permanent solution. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Randwest.
3 learners have sustained injuries after a scholar transport collided with another vehicle in Elspark in Ekurhuleni. Rescue teams received a call earlier this morning about a crash involving a minibus taxi carrying 9 learners and a small vehicle at Kingfisher Avenue. 3 learners sustained minor injuries while 6 others escaped without injuries. The driver of the small vehicle was also unharmed. Ekurhuleni Disaster and Emergency Services spokesperson William Ntladi.
The call was received 7:31 this morning, and rescue teams activated from Wadeville and Vosloorus fire station respectively. On arrival, no entrapments were found in both vehicles. The 3 injured scholars were medically treated on scene before being transported by a private ambulance to a nearby medical facility.
The family of missing Ekurhuleni official Andile Mgwevu are preparing for the worst as the search for the member of the Ekurhuleni Mayoral Committee enters a 4th day. Mgwevu was reported missing on Sunday after the vehicle he was travelling in was swept away by fast-moving floodwaters in the Chokwe region of southern Mozambique on Saturday. He was part of an official delegation visiting the region when severe flooding occurred. Arun Singh has more.
In a statement, the family of Ekurhuleni MMC for Roads and Transport Planning, Andile Mgwevu, claim they are being kept abreast of search and rescue efforts in Mozambique by the South African government. The family say they've been informed that a South African rescue mission deployed to Mozambique has established contact with one of 5 individuals who were travelling in the vehicle with Mgwevu at the time of the incident. The South African National Defence Force have deployed teams to collaborate with disaster management agencies in Mozambique as part of Operation Chariot. Meanwhile, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi will this afternoon visit Mgwevu's family in Springs to offer his support. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, in the National Assembly, Parliament's presiding officers say they will instruct their respective committees on cooperative governance to come up with a plan to exercise oversight of flood-ravaged areas in parts of the country. This is in response to a call from National Council of Provinces MP Malisela Mokwela for the establishment of a joint ad hoc committee to oversee government's response to the state of disaster.
So that as the Parliament, we sing together, make sure that we support the situation that is we all know that even in the province where I'm coming from is extremely worse.
But National Assembly Speaker Tokodidi's and National Council Chairperson Refilwe Tsipane said they believed it would be better for the portfolio committees of both houses to work together. Tsipane says a decision must be made about timing and whether it's best to visit the affected areas now or after provincial reports are compiled on the state of disaster.
All of us we have a role to play in ensuring that their issues have been addressed timeously, and we play our role in terms of oversight.
Didiza noted that the Western Cape is also battling water shortages and fires that are destroying agricultural land, which also warrant consideration. At the same time, Forestry, Fisheries and Environment Minister Willie Oukamp is set to make an announcement on the recovery of the Kruger National Park. Last week, SANParks closed the park to all-day visitors and evacuated travellers and staff from the Letaba Rest Camp after heavy rains caused flooding. The park's media manager, Ray Tlakudi, says full damage assessment has not yet been conducted due to some of the areas still being inaccessible.
We have not really done that calculation as yet, but we can safely say that the extent of this is going to be quite significant in terms of our income. But yeah, we have indeed confirming it that the Minister Oukamp has spoken about the relief fund, and we'll be able to share more information as we are still busy in planning at the moment.
Tlakudi says the park has seen approximately 500 millimeters of rain over the past week, damaging roads and infrastructure.
As I indicated, that some of the car roads have been swept. Kabeni has just been swept just overnight. It was fine yesterday, but the stream that's running there, it became a problem overnight and resulting into a part of the road being swept away. So that in itself, it shows the level of saturation that is within the area.
And Spain has begun its 3 days of mourning after 41 people were killed when two trains collided. Over 120 people were injured, with 39 people still in hospital, including 4 children. The disaster took place on Sunday when one train crossed onto the other track and crashed into the oncoming train, which also derailed. Flags are being flown at half-mast on public buildings. Television anchors are wearing black, and cabinet ministers have stopped all public appearances. Gold's trading at $4,729.91 an ounce. The rand at 16.44 to the dollar, at 22.13 to the pound, at 19.29 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $64.15 a barrel.
Well, at this stage in Irene, there's an accident seen on the R21 southbound. That's between the N1 and Namipius Drive, and this is causing about a 20-minute delay. Selby Joburg, traffic sluggish. M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road.
A look at your weather. It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 23 and 25 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour: 2 people have been killed and 3 others injured in a shooting outside the Boysons Magistrates Court this afternoon.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja.
Live, streaming countrywide
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Ten minutes after 2 o'clock, the second and final hour of 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja. We're going to be jumping into our series edition. It's episode 2, and we are all things kicking off 2026. If you missed out on our first conversation that we had with friend of the show, Nikki Bush, human potential expert and multi-award-winning speaker and author, I encourage you to go to primemediaplus.com to really go and see how you can redefine how you kick off your 2026 and wrap up your 2025. And today we're going to look at psychological, emotional and physical integrity, radical wholeness in 2026. And then we're going to go to our car feature. We're going to be joined by Eugene Schutter, Services Advisor at Steve Auto Clinic in Alberton. And we'll be talking about why basic car maintenance is often overlooked and the long-term costs of ignoring these safety risks. So get in touch with us. 011-883-0702. SMS us 31702. Tweet at Relebogile M at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 Series Edition.
Series edition time, and we really are trying to get the best out of kickstarting 2026 after we wrapped up 2025. Psychological, emotional and physical integrity as we look at radical wholeness in 2026. And we're joined by Nikki Bush, human potential expert and multi-award-winning speaker and author. 011-883-0702 in the WhatsApp line 0727021702. How are you doing, Nikki?
I'm well, thank you. Having beaten the traffic to get here to the studio.
You made it on time. And you don't even look like you were rushing. So you are all good. You are all good. Let's jump straight into it because I'm so excited for what you have planned for us today.
Yeah, so I've chosen radical wholeness as a theme for 2026. And for me, it's about being willing to feel and know and experience all the different parts of myself and then giving them direction and leadership. So I think what happens to many people is we've got an idea of what we want to achieve in the year, but if you don't give your energy, your attention and your time and your body and your emotions and your brain direction, those things will just do their own thing. Okay, so you've got to take control. You've got to be the captain of the ship. You've got to be herding all of those aspects and elements in the direction in which you want them to go. And in this conversation, we're talking about a state of wholeness, whatever wholeness means to you. And in different years and at different ages and stages, that's going to look different. So I'm talking about psychological, emotional, and physical integrity, and it's kind of trying to be as together as possible, shall we use that word?
Yes.
As together as possible, as undivided, as unscattered as possible. And I was reminded this morning in a meeting about how what you focus on will flourish. If your energy and focus is going in too many different directions, nothing does well.
This is true.
You have to pick a lane at some point. You have to pick a lane.
Or as we say, pick a struggle. Because
There we go.
everything comes with its hardship. So you got to pick a struggle.
Pick a battle, pick a struggle, whether that's your weight, whether it's your career, whether it's your relationships, your friendships, your marriage, maybe even just your sense of peace and sanity. You know, what are you reaching out for this year? What is the next best feeling you can reach out for? What is the next best state of mind that you can reach out for? What is the next best way you can stack the deck in your favor? And so it's baby steps. It's not about having it all and doing it all, but it is about experiencing yourself through this process. So perhaps we should start with psychological integrity.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what's going on in our heads. And I have a question for our listeners today. And that question is this: do you have your past, or does your past have you? It's quite a deep philosophical question, because sometimes we get so trapped in our past in maybe you were retrenched and that colors everything. Maybe you lost somebody. Maybe you didn't have a good childhood. None of us has a perfect life. Life doesn't unfold in a straight line for anyone. And it's these patterns that get set up usually at the feet of pain, suffering, and disappointment. Because what do they say in Buddhism? All life is suffering.
Yes.
But victimhood is optional.
Especially if that almost becomes your whole personality. That becomes your whole identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that tail end piece, which is not Buddhism, but victimhood is optional, is a Viktor Frankl, Edith Eger, comes from those sources. We need to choose whether we're going to be a victim of circumstance or whether we are going to rise and direct the ship ourselves. So in my coaching practice, I see incredible healing and progress taking place once we can identify the patterns and the scripts from our past. And something might happen today in your adulthood that really triggers a big response for you. 99.9% of the time, it's triggering something from far back in your life. Even if it's a disease diagnosis or a relationship breakup, a feeling of rejection. This is not the primary rejection. This is hitting a nerve from a long way away back in your childhood. And so if you can go back and find all these patterns and these narratives that are actually telling you how to live your life today, you can undo them and you can rewire your operating system. But you've got to be able to do the human homework that goes with it. It doesn't happen just with a thought. You've got to do the digging.
Yes. And I actually love, I don't know if you know Bashar by any chance. I follow Bashar. And one of the things he says whenever a person is challenged is, what do I have to believe about myself to be true for this to be happening now? Because it touches on that. Is there some self-belief that continues the narrative and that script that
and
now
gives you permission to keep feeling like this.
Exactly.
So you're the gatekeeper. To add to that piece, we have to be the boss. We have to be the gatekeeper. And we need to ask ourselves questions like, what is it that I need to hear from myself? And a lot of the way we speak to ourselves is really not great. That's why we have to take control of the words we use when we talk to ourselves, let alone other people. What is it I need to hear? Maybe it's you are enough. Most people feel inadequate. Maybe you need to hear you are beautiful. Or I love you. And most of these messages come through ourselves first. Otherwise, we're always looking for the validation outside ourselves and the affirmation outside ourselves. And it's not to say that we don't need to hear those things from other people. From the people who are closest to us, depending on your love language, your primary love languages, mine, for example, are affirmation and acts of service.
Yes.
So if you speak to me in words of affirmation, that doesn't mean you have to tell me I'm a superstar every 5 minutes, but in little ways, telling me about myself and what you think of me and reflecting me back at me, that fills my cup. For somebody else, if words of affirmation are not a love language, it doesn't matter if someone doesn't say things to them or recognize what's happening and the effort they're putting in, etc. Maybe gifts is that person's love language. So if somebody produces a gift, whether it is...
put me in Chanel.
Put me in Chanel. Or it could be something really small.
Yep.
Gifts doesn't have to even be big. They will feel affirmed, So knowing your love languages and who's important to you and who you need to hear from is very important. So what do I need to hear? What is it that I need to do? Because all healing and personal growth requires human homework. So there are things that have to be done in order for us to evolve to the next version of ourselves. Because I think we are constantly becoming, in a state of becoming. And you can either revolve in the same place and not learn the lessons and not advance in your self-awareness, or you can evolve to a new version of yourself. And I think every year gives us an invitation to evolve into the next version of who we are, which brings with it everything that we have created to this point, and then adds another layer of interest and complexity, or simplicity. Maybe you're going to be on a simplification journey this year. So, do you have your past or does your past have you? Very important question to answer honestly and see if those old patterns are playing out still to this day. And here's another question around your psychological integrity. What is it that you value? Mm-hmm. So often, someone will say, what are your values? And we roll out socialized norms. Oh, I value trust. I value integrity. I value success. Is that really what you value right now? Or is there something else that is more important to you right now?
Yes.
So what is your truth, I guess, would be a better question. What is your truth? And that can change over time. It can be different to somebody who is, say, starting out in a career or becoming a new parent to somebody who's about to retire.
Yes.
What's important to you can be very, very different. So don't tie yourself up in knots trying to work this out. I think a very simple way of looking at what's important to you is just look at where do you spend your most time, your most attention, and your most money.
Some people are going to say, oh my gosh, at my job, but it's not my favorite thing. But I like about what you said about your most, where do you spend your most money? But I'm also thinking about what do people daydream about? In terms of the fact that for some people, maybe their time is quite controlled. But I absolutely love those questions that a person must actually ask themselves to start to understand what it is that they value.
And maybe we need to even clarify this more. If you had disposable time, money and energy, where would you spend it?
Yes.
Because yes, we all have to survive. So we all spend money on food and clothing and school fees and all those things. But let's take that a step further. Your disposable discretionary time, attention and money. Where do you spend that? So if you have a little bit extra, where would you spend it? Because I think that gives you clues. I think we're always, there are clues all around us. There's wisdom all around us. We're just so busy that we never slow down enough to see the messages that we are getting and the reflections of who we are being reflected back at us. So that's where I want to leave the psychological integrity. Then let's move to emotional integrity. And this is a Deepak Chopra quote. And I think it's very beautiful, and I see it regularly, and I read it regularly, and I think it's underestimated. Every cell in your body is listening to your inner dialogue. In other words, whatever's going on inside you that maybe you haven't even told anybody else, your hopes, your dreams, your fears, all of those things are impacting on your health. So that negative self-talk, not feeling enough, those sorts of things can drag your immune system down and make you far more susceptible to picking up illness, disease, etc. So be very careful about what that inner chatter is, because it can either expand you or contract you. And emotions are not bad. So even though you might have some negative emotions, and we all have them, we need to acknowledge them. We need to label them. We need to talk about them with somebody, because often when we just have an inner conversation, we go round and round in circles, and it gets more and more negative by the second, because sometimes we need to verbalize to lift us out. To hear ourselves say it out loud is very different from the silent inner conversation. And sometimes when you say it out loud to someone, we go, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? So emotions are data, and they provide information. Don't fear them. Label them. Work with them. And if you need someone to help you decode them, get some help. If you're employed, you've got access to an employee assistance program. They have psychologists. They have financial people. They have legal aid. It's free. Go and use it. That's a first free port of call. If you can afford to pay, because you've got medical aid, then go and find somebody within your network to go and speak to. You can even talk to a friend or a parent or whomever it is, who are your confidants, who can actually help you get perspective. Because I think that's the thing. When things go around in our heads and they never come out, we can lose perspective. And we can go down a rabbit hole of negativity about ourselves.
And I think when you speak about the self-talk, a very good guide, if your self-talk is negative, is imagine if you would speak to
Somebody
a child
else.
like that,
Yes.
or to like your best friend or somebody you really love. Would it be okay for you to speak to them the way you speak to yourself, especially because the body doesn't know the difference between, if it's really happening or not. So if you're constantly saying, oh, I'm so stupid, I forgot that thing again, you might think it's just a throwaway comment, but
it's reinforcing a pattern.
Exactly.
It's reinforcing a pattern. And all of our emotions sit somewhere in our body. So I'm showing you now a picture of a person, an androgynous person. Our listeners can just draw a stick man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A stick man or a stick woman. And what's very important is to actually, I get my clients to map their emotions on their body. So where are you feeling the fear? Is it in your head? Is it in your throat? Is it in your solar plexus? Is it in your tummy? Is it in your knees? Is it in your feet? And I get them to circle on their body. Where is the emotion sitting? So if you're struggling with 5 different negative emotions right now, or positive, you can actually, draw them onto your body, and then describe them in more words to give them substance. Because the more you can get in touch with them, the more you can release their power over you. It's a really important thing. So where are you feeling these emotions in your body? And often, that feeling of dread will be in your gut.
Yes.
You've got a doctor's appointment. You don't know what the results are going to be, and it's in your gut, and you want to vomit. Okay. And right now, it's the thing that's taking you out. It's swallowing up all your energy. And yet there's nothing I can do about it until I get to the doctor. So once I can circle it and say, well, is there anything I can do about it right now? No. I can almost try and put it aside for a while and get back to it. So our emotions are information, and we need to use them as informants, and then from there we take action. So then we need to start reframing where we find ourselves emotionally. So that tight solar plexus could be in a knot of hope and expectation. It doesn't have to be fear.
Yes.
It could be positive, that excited nervousness of a new relationship, the butterflies in your tummy. And then seeing that it's positive, you go, okay, so it's positive, it's okay.
Or even not being employed and you finally land a job, that excitement of getting to start a new job, meeting new people, and even working in a space that you've been wanting to work for so long.
And even that is terrifying. Even though you've chosen that job for all the right reasons, and it's the job of your dreams, and yet the first 8 weeks, all you want to do is run away.
Yep.
Because it's new, it's uncomfortable, it's different rules apply, different people, different processes, different procedures, different platforms you've got to get used to. And there's a part of you that goes, oh, I thought this was going to be so exciting and so easy, but it's actually harder than I thought. Have I made the right decision? So I really want to say to all our listeners who are in new jobs this year, calm down. In 8 weeks, you'll feel very different. For the first 8 weeks, you might want to run back to where you were because you understood it.
Yes.
Even if it wasn't ideal, you understood it. And then let's go to physical integrity.
So this is what I want to do. I want to give us time to wrap this up nicely. We're going to head over to the news. I see your WhatsApp messages, and we're going to jump into physical integrity and take some of your questions before we go to the car feature as well. 011-883-0702 and the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. It's 2:30 time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. 2 people have been killed and 3 others injured in a shooting outside the Boysons Magistrates Court this afternoon. One of the victims who survived is a well-known attorney. It's believed he represented a notorious gangster who he had met at the court for a consultation. Police are currently on the scene. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kwagube has arrived at the home of one of the families who lost a child in the deadly scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park. She's accompanied by Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chilwane as government leaders continue engagements with bereaved families following the tragedy that claimed the lives of 12 learners yesterday. The visit comes after police arrested the driver of the minibus taxi as investigations into the crash continue. And Johannesburg City Power is owed more than 10 billion rand in unpaid electricity bills by both its commercial and residential customers. The municipal power utility has been struggling to collect revenue for services rendered due to the apparent reluctance of customers to settle their bills. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 3 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at the stage in Irene, we're still dealing with that accident seen on the R21 southbound between the N1 and Namibia, still causing about a 20-minute delay, so avoid that route if you're heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. Heading towards, that's leaving Pretoria, heading towards the airport. Rather use the N1 or main road, that's through Centurion, and then rejoin the R21 at Olifantsfontein Road. In Midrand, also slow-moving traffic. This is on the N1 northbound. This is heading towards Pretoria between the Between Interchange and Allendale, while in Selby, that's leaving the Joburg CBD. Traffic remains sluggish on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Water infrastructure vandalism has tragic and dangerous consequences. The theft of manhole covers can result in fatalities, especially among children. Each damaged pipe, illegal hookup, or vandalized pump jeopardizes access to clean water, disrupts service, and threatens public safety. Report suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg at 0800 002 587. Help combat water infrastructure vandalism. Your alertness can prevent disasters. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
Life keeps getting busier. Parenting, shopping, working, exercising, just surviving. With all of that, who has time for anything else? That's why Netcare introduces Netcare AppointMed. Just tell us what you need, a specialist, GP or dentist, and we'll search our nationwide network of 5,000 doctors and find an appointment with a doctor who best suits your needs and medical aid. That's Netcare AppointMed on the Netcare app.
Are you one of our loyal listeners? Did you tune in over the holidays while we were off recharging? What were your thoughts on the content and the lineup? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Simply send us your feedback to contact@702.co.za, or better still, you can do it in person. Come visit us this Friday, the 23rd. We'll be hosting another 702 visits at lunchtime. We'll take you on a tour of our lovely building and show you our studios. To book your seats, simply send us an email to contact@702.co.za. We'd love to meet you and connect with you.
702
Series Edition.
It is 26 minutes to 3 o'clock, and we continue with our series edition as we chat to Nikki Bush. And in the series edition, we really have been looking at radical wholeness in 2026. We've touched on psychological integrity. We've touched on emotional integrity. And Nikki was now about to move on to physical integrity. But before we pick up on that, we're going to find out from John Perlman what's coming up on 702 Drive. John, how are you doing? What's coming up on your show today?
Doing well, thanks. Coming up on the show, so shooting at the Boysons Magistrates Court. 5 people shot, 2 people killed. One of the people who was shot is apparently a prominent criminal lawyer. So, shootings in and of themselves are terrible things to happen. But if it is in some way connected to some effort to interfere in the justice process, as we had down in the Western Cape, I think it was in Claremont, then, obviously there are other implications as well. We'll find out as much about that as we possibly can. After the terrible events in Vanderbijl Park yesterday, Relebogile, lots of talk about everybody getting counselling, but I thought we need to break that word counselling down a lot more, because there's the in the moment and the immediate aftermath. But what kind of support, first of all, do people need over a much longer period? Because these things echo through people's lives in all sorts of ways for unknowable periods of time. And, if we don't properly understand what people need, we can't set about making sure that they actually get it. So we'll do that after 4 o'clock. We'll go down to Knysna again. Yesterday we spoke to the mayor. The mayor's ship has been held by the ANC in recent years, but for 8 years it was held by the Democratic Alliance. Now the DA controls the province as well. They had 8 years to start working on getting Knysna ready for periods like this. It would appear they didn't perhaps get as much done as they ought to put it mildly. We'll talk to the MEC for local government about that at 10 minutes to 5. And finally, back on Vanderbijl Park, they're talking about charging the driver of the taxi where the young people were being transported with culpable homicide. Do those cases succeed? I get the legal frame that allows that to be a charge that gets laid. But what's the success rate? How does it work? We'll explore that after 5.
And I'm still terribly shocked that he's only 22 years old.
Well, people go into the world of work as early as they can if they don't have options, and taxi driving is a choice, but there's a lot still to find out who he is and what he did.
7:02 Drive with John Perlman coming up from 3 to 6 p.m.
7:02
Series Edition.
All right, we continue in our series edition as we chat to Nikki Bush, friend of the show, human potential expert and multi-award-winning speaker and author. And we've been looking at the neuroscience of change, radical wholeness in 2026. So we touched on psychological integrity. We touched on emotional integrity. And now we're moving on to physical integrity, because these are very critical things that we need to really observe. And this is all about self. So there is no right or wrong. You need to measure this against yourself, your own experience, where you are in life at the moment. 011-883-0702 in the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. Nikki, physical integrity.
Relebogile, your body is your temple, and it's the human vessel for your soul, and you only get one of them. So, how are you respecting your body and looking after it? And how are you listening to your body and the messages that it's actually giving you, that it's sharing with you? And how are you honoring your body's need for healthy food, exercise, and the biggie is sleep?
Yes.
And I think we're probably the most sleep-deprived generation ever, literally from babies through to adults, because we have so much choice as to how to spend our time. And this is where we have to get curious and disciplined and focused. And I'd like to direct our listeners to nikkibush.com, to my latest blog on radical wholeness. And there is also a link there to go and download the time audit, which I think we might have discussed in one of the shows last year, is how you could save 40 hours in a month, in a week, and what you would do with that, 40 hours in a week. And so a lot of what we do with our body is very connected to how much time we have. Do we have time for exercise? Do we have time to cook good food, or are we doing takeaways? Do we have enough time to sleep? And I would really like to encourage everybody to be a little more curious and a little more intentional about what they do that impacts on their health and their body this year. It could be something quite small, like taking the stairs instead of taking the escalator or the lift. It could be you can go and do a post-meal, I think it's called a post-prandial walk, 10 minutes of walking.
Yes.
Per meal. Apparently amazing when you actually do the 10 minutes of walking after every meal. Good for your body, good for your mind, good for your soul, etc. So it could be something small. And I think what we need to remember is that all change needs to be incremental.
Mm.
You don't suddenly go from 0 to hero. And if you want to lose 5 kilos, you don't do it in a day. You know, you do it over a few months.
How you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
I have to read you some of these WhatsApps that are coming through. One says, 702, thoughts are energy, and it matters what you allow yourself to think. Negative thoughts equal negative energy. Therefore, positive equals positive energy. Also, gratitude matters. Love your show as always. Lots of love from Annika. And Dr. Philemon says, Relebogile, Nikki, thank you for the series. Nikki, in your love language, I think you are great. You continue to teach us a lot from the heart and from life. Keep going.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahuna. We know you're such a fan of the show.
Yes, definitely.
I would like to add one thing to the thoughts are energy and
Yes.
they determine, outcomes. I think thoughts are important, but thoughts without action don't actually create the outcomes that you want.
Mm.
You can't just sit and do affirmations. You actually have to do something to shift your state and your space in order for things to really manifest. And that's why I always say we've got to do our human homework. Nobody can do it for us. So I hope that everybody who's listening loves themselves enough to reach out for radical wholeness this year, because the more together you are, the more focused you are, the more impact you can have in your life. So it really is about maximizing your impact by looking inwards first so that your output can be more focused and impactful.
NikkiBush.com is where you can go to get more information and tools and resources. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much.
There's a new way to experience all your favorites. Pulse Africa, the 24/7 fast channel, now live on primemediaplus.com and the Prime Media Plus app, bringing you the best of Prime Media around the clock. Watch the biggest moments from 702. It's non-stop entertainment and authentic African storytelling, all from Africa's leading media network. Pulse Africa, only on the primemediaplus.com and Prime Media Plus app.
Mzansi, Powerball has skyrocketed to an epic 177 million rand in estimated jackpot this Tuesday, the second highest ever recorded jackpot in Ituba's history. Play now and you could win big, just like Friday's Powerball Plus winner, who bagged over 33 million rand via the National Lottery platform. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba's the proud operator of the National Lottery. As world leaders and investors gather in Davos this week to set the global economic agenda, Gauteng is stepping forward as Africa's economic gateway. Catch 702 in conversation with the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency on 702 Drive with John Pullman this afternoon, unpacking Gauteng's presence at this year's World Economic Forum. From global investors to long-term partnerships, discover how South Africa's economic engine is positioning itself for future growth. Only on 702.
702.
The car feature.
16 minutes to 2 o'clock. Time for the car feature on 702 afternoons. And in our car feature for today, we're talking about basic car maintenance. Why is it that you're overlooking it? And what are the long-term costs of ignoring these safety risks? We're joined by Eugene Schutter, Services Advisor at Steve Auto Clinic in Alberton, 011 8830702, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Eugene, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you very much.
Okay, Eugene, let's talk about some of the basics when it comes to car maintenance, and what that checklist actually needs to be looking like. Let's assume that you're not waiting for your dealership to remind you about anything. You have to sort of draft your own little list?
Look, the basic stuff, it comes down to your oil. Your oil is the heart of your vehicle. And if you don't do that, the minimum, the basic stuff, the oil filter and oil and the air filter, those are the basic things. Then once you can cover those things, you will prolong your engine's life. If you don't do that.
Sorry, yes. Eugene, can I ask, why is oil so important, especially for those who have no idea of the inner workings of a car?
It's the lubrication in your engine, all your internals of your engine. The oil viscosity after 15,000 kilometers, you must understand that oil has been working constantly up and down through the engine, get hot and cold. So your viscosity wears down eventually.
Okay.
So if you don't change it, your lubrication of all your internal parts, it gets less, and that causes engine failure. That can put you down up a bill of 20, 30, 40,000 rand. In some vehicles, it can be way more than that.
Okay, so after oil, what is the next big thing on the list?
Okay, then it comes down to your brakes. Brakes, obviously, if you don't have brakes, you can't brake. Then it comes down to your suspension stuff, where all your front stuff is all connected. If your suspension is a problem, those are things that you can hear when you drive over humps and stuff like that. There's always a knocking noise. And then it can be suspension. It can be your shocks. There's a lot of stuff that can cause that, and that can cause your car to have a big accident also.
Do you think, obviously the modern cars now will tell a person what they need to be doing. What would you say, and let's assume a person doesn't have a modern car that has certain lights that go on. What are some of the other things that a person needs to go in and regularly have an expert check?
Look, on your modern cars, it gives you your service intervals, all right? But it doesn't tell you that, some of the cars also tell you about your brakes. It tells you that your brake wear is down. That's why some modern vehicles have brake wear sensors. And those sensors tell you that your brakes is low. You need to stop at a garage, a workshop, so they can check those things out. Those are things that's very important on the modern vehicles. On your older vehicles, that is all physical checks. You can hear when brakes is low, there's a very bad squeaking or a rough grinding noise on your brakes. Those are things that you can hear. On the modern vehicles, it gives you a sensor. There's a little sign on the dashboard that shows that there's a brake wear problem and you need to stop at a workshop so that they can attend to the brakes.
Let's chat tires for a moment, because we know tires can be very, very expensive, and sometimes people will delay changing them. How important is maintaining that?
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, in our day of age now, that there's so much rain and potholes and stuff like that, you don't see it on the road. And if your traction on your tires is bad, and you drive on the road that's very wet, and you need to brake suddenly, and your brakes your tire doesn't have enough tread on it, your car will just slide, your aquaplane, because now there's nothing for the vehicle to hold on to. So, you know what, I would suggest, everybody should at least once a year or twice a year, or whatever the case is, depending on how much you drive on a daily basis, stop at a tire place, so they can check the tread on your vehicle. Do just a health check on your tires to make sure that the tires are still good to go, and they will advise you immediately. On the mechanical side of things, we can see the tires. Oh, your tires is bald at certain places. That can also be your shocks. That's a problem. So there's a lot of things that needs to be looked at before you just go and replace stuff. So best is to stop at a garage, let them go through the vehicle, check the vehicle out, and make sure that this vehicle is roadworthy in that sense to travel and not to have accidents on the road because of non-maintenance.
Do you think we as motorists underestimate the importance of having that windshield washer fluid, that water?
Yes. Look, I won't say the washer fluid as much as your wipers. I mean, if your wipers is not good, then you can have as much washer fluid in the vehicle as that you like. But if the wipers doesn't clean the windscreen properly, then the fluid is not going to do much to it. So you need to check your wipers also, especially now that it rains so much. I mean, wipers, I would say every 3 to 4 months, change your wiper blades. It's an inexpensive part, and it can help you on the road when it's raining. Yes, make sure that there's washer fluid in your vehicle. Even if it's just make sure that there's water in the washer fluid, so that when you do have a spray, you can just spray the windshield and wipe it clean, as long as your wipers is in a good condition still.
Okay, and I'm glad that you mentioned that as well. What are some of the common challenges that you are seeing in terms of what people neglect? Because a battery, for example, you'll only wait until it actually dies or your car won't start to look at it.
Look, mostly the things that people neglect is servicing. They just want to do the bare minimum to save costs. That's what it comes down to. You can advise them, look, brakes is low, you need to do brakes. Let me rather just do the oil service for now. I'll come back and I'll do the brakes. Or they'll go to mechanics that just do certain things, just to save costs. So I think generally it all comes down to how much you have in your pocket to spend on your vehicle to make sure that it's roadworthy and to make sure that you can travel on the road safely from one destination to the other.
Can we talk about lights? We know that that is such a massive, massive one.
Definitely. Yes. You know what? With the more modern vehicles, it's very easy to see that the lights, because they've got all these fancy LED lights and high definition lights and stuff like that. Where your older vehicles don't have that, so your lights get yellow. It's not a white light or these beam lights. So that can cause issues on the road, especially on dark roads. You can't see 100 meters ahead of you because the lights are so bad. And, it all comes down again to costs. Does people want to spend the money on the lights? Yes, you do get people that say, my lights is dim. Can we change it? There is ways to actually change the lights and make sure that you can see a little bit further.
I have seen, and I'm not sure if Eugene, these are modern cars or maybe the higher, bigger cars. But sometimes on the roads, it looks like a car's brighting you, but they aren't brighting you. Are the lights at the moment changing?
Yes, no, definitely. All your modern vehicles, they've got all these high technology lights in them, so that gives a brighter light, where the older vehicles don't have that.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Of course it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Look, I would say if you drive at night and it's a far distance that you travel and it's dark roads and you've got these modern lights, obviously it's good because you can see further. Sorry for the people that come ahead. I mean, then you know what? How do you say you're not allowed to have those lights on? Because that's the manufacturer. That's how they manufacture the vehicle. It comes out with that type of light.
I hear you. Can we talk briefly just around the engine in terms of, I've seen at some car washes, they'll say that they'll give your engine a clean. Is that necessary? Is it something that even needs to be touched by people who are not mechanics?
No, because most of the vehicles have fuse boxes and computer boxes inside the engine compartment. And if that gets water, you can imagine what it does. I mean, the car can break down. So if you see your engine is dirty, I mean, some places do wash them and they know where to wash so that they don't get water in the fuse boxes and stuff like that. So yes. Otherwise, if you want to do it yourself, I would suggest is just use a cloth and wipe where you can, a wet, damp cloth, wipe where you can so you don't get water in places where it shouldn't go into.
Okay, and I think that is a good piece of advice. Let's chat briefly around electric vehicles. And I know not many people have electric vehicles yet, but I'm sure they have their own kind of maintenance. What are some of the things that a person needs to look out for?
On electrical vehicles, they only just came. I mean, for us, we haven't really done as many mechanical vehicles. On electrical vehicles, I don't have much information on that.
Okay, but I mean, I would imagine that either way, a person still needs to be checking some of those basic things, because even your electric vehicle's battery at some point needs to be checked and maintained.
Exactly, and that's only the agents that can do that. I mean, that's not something that you can do it by yourself. Those batteries are very expensive to change in the first place. So your manufacturers can check that out, and they can advise you where to charge it or where to replace it, or if they can replace it themselves. It is quite expensive to replace those batteries.
We've got a call on 011-883-0702. Mark in Erasmia. Go ahead, Mark.
Good day, how are you?
Good, thanks, and you?
Very well. I would like to ask your guest, apparently my router on my vehicle wasn't working. I've put in a new good quality one, and apparently sometimes when I use it, when I press it on the steering, sometimes it works, sometimes it's faint, sometimes it doesn't. So I just wanted to find out, could there be a short circuit, or is the router itself faulty?
It can be one of both. I mean, there I would suggest to get to an auto electrical place so they can just check the wiring and make sure that router is actually still in a good working condition, that all the wires is still intact, all your connections are still intact.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that one. And actually, that's another one, Eugene, is the vehicle's horn.
Yes.
And the hooter. I mean, how often do they actually die in real life?
If you hit water with that, it can die. I mean, you must understand, everything that's man-made have a life expectancy, so it can go at any time. So it's very difficult for me to tell you, no, you must check it on a regular basis. I mean, how do you know when your router is dead? Only time that you know your router is dead
is when you use it.
When you use it, exactly.
All right, there's another question saying, my husband's car oil is leaking. What might be the problem? It's a Corsa utility van. They don't specify.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. You get to a workshop that they can check it. There's so many places, there's so many working parts that you need to check.
Okay.
A workshop will be able to lift it on the hoist, take it off the covers and check. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Thank you so much, Eugene Schutter, for your time and for chatting to us on this car feature. Getting ready for university? Let South African Airways take the pressure out of your travel. Enjoy all-inclusive one-way fares from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655 Rand, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144 Rand. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 check bags instead of 1. On sale until the 12th of Feb. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Mzansi Powerball has skyrocketed to an epic 177 million Rand estimated jackpot this Tuesday, the second highest ever recorded jackpot in Ituba's history. Play now and you could win big, just like Friday's Powerball Plus winner who bagged over 33 million rand via the National Lottery platform. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda Pusher Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Relebogile is on X at Relebogile M.
Thank you so much for joining us on 702 Afternoons. It's 3 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Gauteng police probe deadly shooting outside court, and City Power owed more than 10 billion rand in unpaid electricity bills. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. Gauteng police have launched an investigation into the murder of 2 people and the attempted murder of 3 others following a shooting outside